everyone, and welcome to Lying Around Connecticut with Carol and Harry. I am Carol Kearns. My husband, Harry Shue, is our co-host. Our mission for the show is twofold: to provide information about Connecticut Lions events and to showcase the many different organizations and causes that Lions support locally, regionally, and internationally. Harry?
Good evening and welcome. Please consult our website at www.lions23b.org or your district spirit for more information on coming events.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lying Around Connecticut with Carol and Harry.
We are back at the Nutmeg Restaurant in East Windsor, and this is the Greater Hartford West Indian Lions Club's 17th Annual Awards Banquet. They do a great job honoring the members of their community who give so much, don't they, Carol?
They do indeed.
On with the show.
On Eva.
Please welcome Lion Winsome for It is my pleasure to present this award to Burnett Joshua Denoval. She comes from the beautiful island of St. Lucia. She currently works for Conduit, which is formerly the Xerox company, and she's also the president of the St. Lucian American Society Association of Connecticut, treasurer of the Caribbean American Dance Company, secretary of the West Indian Independence Celebration. She's also an active member of the Mary and Martha Gildet St. Justin St. Michael Church, Ladies of Peter Faber Auxiliary, St. Lucian Lions Club, and the West Indian Social Club. So she is very, very active. She's a proud wife of Renee Donoval and has 3 beautiful daughters. She enjoys spending time with family, helping others, traveling, listening to music, especially Paris Hammond, reading and knitting. Congratulations. Thank you, everyone. Good evening, esteemed members of the Greater Hartford West Indian Lions Club, and ladies and gentlemen, it's a thrill to share this special occasion with you. Thank you all for being here this evening. Greater Hartford West Indian Lions Club, thank you very much. This award wouldn't have my name on it if it wasn't for organizations like you, unsung heroes. No one succeeds in isolation. There is always someone or sometimes a group of people to whom we owe thanks for their part in enabling us to move forward. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to volunteer in the community, and thanks to my family and friends for being supportive and helping me keep my sanity. Greater Hartford West Indian Lions Club, once again, thank you. Your example in supporting the work that people like myself do sends a clear message to communities we belong to. Volunteering matters. It is important, and together we make a difference. Thank you. May this award go on to inspire many others. And please fill out that application. Thank you. Just one word. That the Greater Hartford West Indian Lions Club was one of the sponsors for the St. Lucian Lions Club. Thank you. Our next award is Grace Radio. Winston Barnaby will be doing the presentation.
My job tonight is fairly simple and easy, and something that I did not hesitate to say yes to. Chris Radio. How many people go by Windsor Avenue and see the building, Chris Radio? Do you know what happens inside there? Chris Radio is a radio put together to service the blind community. And once Chris Kelly get up here and start telling you about Chris Radio, you're going to say, gosh, why did it take so long? It's a service to come into the community. Chris Radio started off solely as service to the blind. He'll explain how it works. And then they branch into the schools and provide a lesson plan for kids with learning disabilities. And then in the libraries, if you go in the library, there is some kind of gizmo set up. If you're blind, you could touch some button. He'll explain how it works, and it will explain to the blind person what the picture or the display is all about. Chris Radio.
So I just want to start by saying that 100 years ago today, my grandfather was in France in World War I, and as family lore has it, was promoted to sergeant because he was a loudmouth. So I'm going to try to make a go of it and also weave back into World War I in a few minutes. I've been volunteering at Chris Radio for 15 years, and one of the first things you learn is how important the Lions are to Chris Radio. Chris started 40 years ago, 1978-79, and the Lions were with us from the get-go. And it's been very important financially to the tune of about $40,000 a year. I think even more important is having Lions as ambassadors in the community so that when you see folks that have needs to have Chris Radio in their home, you know what it's about and how to get it. I also, this is the favorite part of my job. I've now been working at Chris for 4 years, is coming out and speaking to Lions clubs, because I've never been in a Lions club where people said, oh yeah, I can see where you can't do that. It's always, let's have a sub-meeting over here, we'll figure it out. I was talking about cuts from the state budget, and before I got done speaking, one of the Lions had a state senator on the phone. We were saying how we wanted to get a radio station down in Fairfield to sponsor us, and while I'm speaking, they put together a list of 7 radio stations that they thought they could approach it. There's no in Lions, although I guess there is a no if you switch the other around, but that's for another day. So Chris Radio is Connecticut's radio reading service. We read magazines and newspapers, the Hartford Courant, Journal Enquirer, New York Times, Oprah, Good Housekeeping, Sports Illustrated, and then those recordings are played over a radio station for people who are blind. The service is provided to folks in the community at no cost to them, so they fill out an application saying that they have a disability. We send them the radio, they turn it on, they get the service. There's no cost to them. 300 volunteers at 6 studios around the state read newspapers locally. Down in New Haven, they read the Register, the Post in Bridgeport, and the Day in New London, etc. So we're able to get local news to folks. So if you think about, and obviously if you're a Lion, you are familiar with folks who are blind, and they have the same need for information that we do. That their taxes are going up, that their stocks are going down, that the Red Sox won last night, who won the election locally. So we deliver that to them every day. I just want to show, we started 40 years ago with one of these radios, and these are still the radios we send out to people in the community. And there are 3,000 of these radios around the state of Connecticut in folks' homes. And I did this last week at the National Federation for the Blind, and it didn't work so well because, as I said to them, I'm not the brightest bulb in the, to kind of give a visual at the National Federation of the Blind might not have been the smartest thing, but this kind of shows the span of 40 years of Chris Radio to go from these old transistor radios to an app on your iPad or on your Android phone. So 3,000 people around the state have that. We now are available from our website. Thanks to when we moved into the new studio on Windsor Avenue, everything that we produce is done digitally. So if you are, your favorite magazine is Time Magazine, and you have a doctor's appointment that day, you can download the show later on your iPad or telephone and listen to it. Or, how these radios can be. We can't get Chris Radio at Chris Radio because these radios, don't penetrate certain. Well, by the way, I was here I gave a talk to the South Windsor Lions Club, and they handed me ice cream and then said, "Yeah, from Chris Radio." And that happened to be again tonight. It must be the nutmeg that every time somebody gives me ice cream, I'm not allowed to eat it. But because everything is digital, we're able to do many very exciting things. We started recording children's magazines. We now record 17 children's magazines, and those magazines are streamed to the Connecticut Children's Medical Center. And as a result of that program, we now stream our regular streams into St. Francis Hospital, Mount Sinai Hospital, and we're about to start in 3 hospitals in southwestern Connecticut, down in Danbury and Stamford. So we're very excited about that. The exciting thing about it is, as I said, Chris Radio is provided to folks in the community at no cost. But there is a cost. So everything else that we're doing, we're trying to generate streams of income so that we can keep that service at no cost to folks in the community. So we charge a subscription to the hospitals for that stream. Another no-cost service we do is we have the only dedicated Latino stream in the country, which always struck me as funny in Hartford. It could be San Antonio or Chicago or someplace, but Windsor, Connecticut provides the only dedicated stream of Spanish magazines. Several years ago, at the same time that we opened the new studio, we hired a new executive director, Diane Peter-Gunn. And Diane brought a different perspective to Chris. Her father was thrown out of school when he was 14 for being dumb, but really he had dyslexia. And as a result, wasn't able to access print material. So she's down at the Mystic Aquarium outside the penguin cage, and she's reading the sign, and she says, "That's really interesting. My father never would have been able to read that." So she created a museum program called Chris Access, where we record the signage in a museum, and then with your smartphone, you just scan the QR code, and everything is read to you. Now, as we've found out, kind of awkwardly, this doesn't work well for folks who are blind, even though iPhones are the tool of the day for them and help a great deal. They still can't really find the QR code to aim it at. So what our next generation is going to be is a Bluetooth system where you just walk through the museum with your Bluetooth activated, and it'll tell you what you're in front of, where the bathrooms are, what time the speech is on a certain exhibit, etc. So we're very excited. And again, we'll be able to get a subscription from museums for that to help us stay in business on the other things that we're doing. And so we got museums, and then finally, what I do at Chris, we had a retired special education teacher who was stuffing envelopes for us, volunteering one day in the office, and found out that we were recording these children's magazines, and he said, what you should do is go into schools and tell teachers that you'll take the classroom materials and record them for students that have disabilities and can't access the print versions that their peers are reading. So as a result, we created Chris Kids for Schools. We're currently in 105 schools around the state. We're in every school in Hartford. What we do is we have the Common Core recorded. We have the 17 children's magazines, and every time a teacher sends us a book, we've got the whole Diary of a Wimpy Kid series, and we just finished To Kill a Mockingbird, which was our most requested book. So kids that are in class that used to have the big earmuffs back when we were in school, now every kid has an iPhone that they have earplugs for, and the students that are next to them that don't have access to the audio recorders, like, I want to listen to my homework. So we're very excited about that, and that is drawing a lot of attention from foundations. The Hartford Foundation for Public Giving has been very generous to Chris Radio to support that in the greater Hartford area. So we've been able to develop that based on what teachers have told us that they'd like to see, just like our regular services are really pushed by the listeners. We want to be putting stuff on the air that folks are interested in hearing. So I don't know how close I am to 10 minutes, but those are so bring it back to World War I. First, we're able to do this. We're reading all copyrighted materials. After World War I, Congress gave organizations that read to the blind a copyright exemption because organizations were reading to veterans who had lost their eyesight in World War I. So that's one way to bring it back. But we also just finished a partnership with the Connecticut State Library that was funded by the National Archives to record materials in audio format so that researchers and citizens that are interested in hearing more about what was going on during World War I in Connecticut can listen. So we've got over 100 newspaper articles from Litchfield down to Norwich and everywhere in between. We've got questionnaires that were sent out to veterans to talk about their experience, and propaganda, how a proper woman should treat her German neighbors. Some stuff that you couldn't write today, how to be a proper woman. But this was another effort, and I think we're going to continue to try to get those federal contracts because that helps us to develop materials for our libraries for the kids, and also helps us bring in income to keep the services that we provide no cost to the community. Any questions? I feel like I was a little off because my ice cream was melting. So when I'm going to say 10 years ago, Chris was at about $80,000, $85,000 a year from the state, which was about a third of the budget. So the good news is our budget is now $500,000, and it never went up, so it became a smaller part of our budget. We've been cut every year for the last 5 years, and we expect to be zeroed. We've been zeroed out the last 3 years and fought to get the money back in. We went to 60 to 40, last year was 20, and I expect this year to be zeroed out. So, and you look at, I have friends that work at Connecticut nonprofits, and they sent me the budget and said, you know, Chris Radio's been zeroed out. And then I'm like, oh, darn. And then I look above it, and it says, teachers for the deaf blind have been cut 66%. Like, they're miracle workers. There's a movie, Miracle Worker. How do you cut the miracle workers? So they're just, you know, I can't say anything about it. But we need to fight for, you know, those sort of things that, where else are you going to get that, right? Some of those folks are friends of mine that, I'm like, how do you even do that? And it's really, it's a long process of developing trust and communication with young children that, I mean, they're underpaid, whatever they're doing. And that's just one example of that. You know, well. Yes, sir.
With the new administration that's coming in, have you approached the senators in terms of the funding?
No, we have not. It's Tuesday, but I know that I just found out that Scott Storms. It's weird for me because my background was homelessness and HIV and working with people with disabilities. Chris Radio was always supported by the Republican Party, so now like people are coming in and I'm like, they were always against the stuff that I was advocating for, so the names are upside down. Of course, the Democrats are supportive as well, but Scott Storms is somebody. You know, one thing I didn't mention about this, and he was here, which thank you for reminding me. We have 2 partnerships on the museum program with Lions Clubs. The Windsor, the Connecticut Valley Agricultural Museum in Windsor. The Lions sponsored our displays there, and Senator Storms was there. And we're this close to being complete in Bristol, and the Bristol Lions helped us at the Carousel Museum. So that's been a great partnership for us. But nobody is against. Nobody will say they're against. You know, and we're talking about such a small amount of money, but that's a great point. I hadn't even thought, like, hey, it's time for us to retool and get back out there and talk to folks. So, thank you. Anybody else? Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about this. I'll leave some brochures on the table over here, so if you're interested, especially if you have a club that you want to take them out to. Cool.
What about volunteers? Are you looking for volunteers?
We have 300 volunteers. We're volunteer dependent, so we definitely are. We do have a waiting list for the reading. I got to tell you, it's kind of funny when we were looking for people to go to the General Assembly to testify in front of them about funding. We were trying to find somebody who was volunteering that did it because their family member had lost their eyesight and they wanted to, you know, they had some sort of story. But all of them were kind of like me. When I was 12, I wanted to be a Red Sox broadcaster. So, hey, I get to volunteer and do read the sports in the morning, and everybody kind of, you know, wants to be a broadcaster. And I should say, one of the more exciting things that we've done recently is thanks to a big Red Sox fan in Windsor named Tom Grossi, who's also a Chris listener, retired from Besby and is blind. He called me one day and said, can you find the station the New York Giants game is on? TIC kicked him off for UConn basketball, and I want to listen to the Giants. And I looked for 10 minutes. I couldn't find a station locally that was going to play. He said, that's all right, I'll ask Alexa. And I said, all right, so tell me, Tom, is this like Alexa thing? It seems like a fad to me, and I'm a tech guy. He goes, it's changed my life. And so within a couple months, we made sure that when somebody said, play Chris Radio on Alexa, they got Chris Radio on Alexa. So, and if you have a chance to look at that or talk to folks at Meat Marketplace, which is up near the St. Lucia Lions Club on Holcomb Street, they have a center where you can go in and see a lot of these technologies that are available that are really incredible and a great aid to folks, including they have a whole room called the Smart Living Room. Sorry, you asked a question?
No, I'm
You don't
not.
remember what the question was?
I remember.
Volunteers, yeah, volunteers. They have a smart house where you can go in and everything is run by voice. So you can turn on lights, turn on fans, turn on your TV set, all with your voice. But yes, we need volunteer applications online. There is a waiting list for doing the broadcasting.
But that's why you're here, right?
That's
So
why I'm here.
advertise your service and get volunteers, right?
Absolutely.
Next thing I want to say to you is, so, all about the pro bono lobbyists, the service that you give out. So I'm a healthcare professional, that's why I work with that. Well, I work with mental health and substance abuse. But in that spectrum, we had hearing impaired, we had blind, and sometimes the services are just not there. You know, well, for the hearing impaired, they would have interpreted, but for the blind, sometimes there was no service. So it is a service that's needed, but if Chris could get a pro bono lobbyist, because that's how you're gonna get your funds. They just don't come and give you funds, you know.
They used to.
But they're not gonna do
I
it.
know, it's crazy.
You gotta go. You gotta get people at the legislature marching down there and bugging them every day. That's how you get it. Yeah. All right.
I'll be calling you about that football. So you're gonna
All right, so raffle tickets. If you haven't gotten your raffle tickets yet, Cynthia and Everton are still selling raffle tickets. Just let us know if you need any more raffle tickets. Okay. So let us know if you need any raffle tickets. So, I just want to recognize Carmen Funeral Home. They're here, represented. We had representatives from Carmen. Are they still here?
Hello, everyone. Here we are again. What a fabulous evening this has been.
It really has. Congratulations to the Greater Hartford West Indian Lions Club and all the honorees this evening. The food was delicious, the company was great,
Yes.
and we're just glad to be here. So that'll do it for this episode of Lying Around Connecticut with Carol and Harry. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed our show this evening. Tune in next week for another Lying Around Connecticut with Carol and Harry. Good night.
Bye-bye.